Gidon Levy, who is one of the most courageous Israeli journalists, works for Haaretz, has said, and I quote here, 2.3 million people living in a cage create some barbaric mutations. Well, on October the 7th, we saw one of those mutations in vivid form. You can't do what Ben-Gvir and Netanyahu, who blesses what he does, and others of this ultra-right, almost Nazi-like administration in Jerusalem now, you can't do the things they have done over the past few months and get away with it. And there's your testimony to the arrogance and the hubris that makes you think you're all powerful, and you're not. No state is.
How do you see the response of Israel to this attack? What are they doing, in your opinion? Is that logic? How did you find it?
They started out with their statements and such, which one tends to believe with Israel in circumstances like this in particular, being quite, in my view, stupid. And some of the statements have continued thusly, and we haven't helped. Paint this picture for yourself for a moment. The richest country in the world per capita, Israel, has more billionaires per capita than we do. Backed by the richest country in the world, is now attacking mercilessly, or plans to, the poorest, most impoverished, most oppressed people in the Middle East, the Palestinians, and particularly those in Gaza. There's your picture. That's a horrible, horrible picture. And then you add to this that richest nation having such people as Tom Cotton, that wonderful, grandiose former military member, Harvard graduate, stentorian senator of the great state of Arkansas, who stands up and says, quote, "As far as I'm concerned, Israel can bounce the rubble in Gaza." Now, that's a very telling statement for a military man. What bouncing the rubble means is you've killed every baby, woman, children, man, dog, cat, and now all you have left is the rubble to bounce around. Then he goes on to say, nothing should be off the table. Then he says, we will protect our interests. And my immediate question to Senator Cotton is, where on earth, Senator, do you find interest, U.S. interest, in bombing civilians? Where do you find that? Where do you find that? But not to be outdone, let's look at some of the statements, and I don't want to be anything but accurate here. These are statements by some of his counterparts in Israel. The state of Israel, I'm quoting, has no choice but to turn Gaza into a place that is temporarily or permanently impossible to live in. This is a reservist Major General Jorah Island writing in Yehodith Aronith, an Israeli newspaper, goes on to say, creating a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza is a necessary means to achieve this goal. And he added, Gaza will become a place where no human being can exist. Not to be outdone, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said, we are fighting human animals. Let me repeat that. We are fighting human animals, and we're acting accordingly, unquote. Major General Hassan Alian said in Gaza, quote, there will be no electricity and no water. There will only be destruction. You wanted hell, you will get hell. That is not a way to start a campaign that the world will not wind up, not just your enemies, but perhaps your friends too, declaring a colossal war crime and a humanitarian disaster. That is not the way to start.